welcome to another episode of Comics, Animations, and Movies. So a couple of days ago, after seeing the recently released movie, Alita Battle Angel, I went and made a non-spoiler review, and during that time, I promised that I will make two spoiler reviews later on. One with regards to the spoiler of the movie, covering some of the story that happened specifically in the movie, and maybe how it compares to the comic. And later on, a spoiler video with regards to both the comic and the movie of how the movie implied where the sequels will be going based on some of the images that you saw in the movie and how it compared to what you read in the further volumes of the comic. So this video is basically about the movie spoiler, and as such, I will be going into the various specific details of the movie and how I felt about them and compare it to what I read in the comic. You know, the good points that I saw in the movie as well as some of the concerns that I had. And because of this, I would like to give my standard spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie Alita Battle Angel, even if you have read the comic, you may want to turn this video off until you actually go see the movie so that you don't get spoiled with regards to some of the unique characteristics of the movie. However, if you were a comic reader that wants to get some information from another comic reader on how they felt about how the movie compared to the comic before you went to see the movie, yeah, okay, then please watch. Also, I will be going into some of the specifics of the comic that covered the same chapters that were covered in the movie. So if you're eventually going to go read the comic and you don't want to be spoiled regarding the differences between the comic and the movie, then I would also suggest that you turn off this video. However, again, if you want to find out, or if you're not going to read the comic and just want to find out what some of the differences were, yeah, please watch. If you want to find out from somebody who can give some information with regards to the comic so that you can make some decision on whether you want to read the comic, yeah, please watch. So those are all my different classifications, and I hope you understand where you fall, in which category you fall, so that you could determine whether you want to watch the video or not. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, so in my non-spoiler video, I did already give my basic assessment of how I felt about the movie. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a blast. I thought it was a adrenaline rush of a movie, and it was really wonderful to be able to see a live action version, namely because you could take all the things that you appreciated in the manga and get the animation, the musical background, the characters' voices, everything together to enhance all of the things that you read in the manga. And so even if the story was a little bit different, and even if some of the things may have been a little bit limited, being able to see a live action version enhanced the actual reading pleasure that you got when you read the manga. And this was especially the case for Alita Battle Angel because of the fact that Robert Rodriguez was extremely faithful to the manga. Sure, there are differences in how the plot moves, but I've already covered that in my previous videos during the trailer when mentioning, you know, when you have a 2-hour limitation and you have to be able to combine all the different arcs of the comic into one single continuous event, you can't go from one arc to the other next like some episode. Instead, you have to combine them all together, and to do so you will have to rewrite the story to accommodate that. So I didn't mind the changes that were made in the chronology of how things progressed in the movie. For example, that Hugo was introduced to Alita right at the beginning, which I thought was a very good idea. And so those types of things didn't bother me. And in fact, you know, I do want to point out some of the very strong points that really enhanced the manga's experience through the greatly enhanced, medium that live action movie can provide. So first and foremost, one of my favorite reasons why I like Alita Battle Angel as a manga reader is because of the portrayal of Alita. I did mention in my non-spoiler review that I did like how Alita was portrayed, and I really enjoyed how Rosa Salazar portrayed Alita. But I also want to thank Robert Rodriguez, who of course directed the portrayal of Alita and ensured that not only did the chronology work well, not only did the screen, story work well, but the characteristics, how she was portrayed, was done properly. And that made it really good because of the fact that when you kind of superimpose the manga Alita, if you want to call her Gali, that's fine. If you want to call her Alita, that's fine. Either way is fine. Those two characters actually superimposed quite well. And so, yeah, Rosa Salazar, you did a very, very good job in portraying Alita, and that was really heartening to see because of the fact that, once again, Alita is a character journey comic, or a story, I should say, now that it's in live-action movie. And because of that, although the world building is important, the lore of the world is not the centralized nature of the story. It's not like, for example, Star Wars, where there is a great journey between or the great conflict between the Sith and the Jedi. And of course, the Luke and whoever, the main characters, are the chosen ones that, basically steer the conflict along so that the lore is completely dependent upon the actions of the character. Here the lore moves along, but it's basically there to give the main character the ability to be able to make her experience and her journey. This is a single person journey that spans several years in the comic and goes through several different experiences, I should say. And it's the character development, how she reacts to the various situations that come up, which are far more important than the actual situation itself. And because of that, I found that it's very, very important that the character development, especially for Alita, is done well. And once again, because it's so well superimposed between the live-action movie character and the comic character, you get a feeling that you will be able to trust that this character will be able to go on the journey and, I guess, trustworthily fulfill the character's development the way you expect it to, according to the original source material. What you see, in the movie gives you confidence that later on, even maybe 5, 6, 7 movies later, she will still be properly represented by the movie. And that was extremely heartening. Now, it doesn't always have to be that way, and because of that, I want to go into another character, which was Dyson Ito. I really like Dyson Ito. And what's interesting is I really like Daisuke Ito too. Daisuke Ito is, of course, the character that comes out in the comic. And unlike Alita, Dyson Ito and Daisuke Ito are represented slightly different. The core nature of the persona of the person, I think, is very similar. However, Daisuke Ito, as you remember, was a much younger person, and because of that, he was more kind of a brother, a friend, and to some a little bit kind of a love interest for Alita. Not in terms of romantic love interest, but a platonic love interest. And because of that, the relationship between Ito and Alita was always kind of cherished by the readers. Here, although it's a much older, I shouldn't say much, older Ito, this has been changed appropriately from a friend and brother relationship to a father and daughter relationship. And I think that's okay. So long as that relationship still gives the kind of the conflicting and yet positive relationship that two people can have, I think that will be fine. And I think Christoph Waltz did a phenomenal job It may not exactly be the Ito that I saw in the comic, but my gosh, I really liked the character that came out in the movie. So yeah, I really liked those characters. And finally, one other character I do want to focus on is Vector, or basically Mahershala Ali's character. And I won't say Vector because of the fact that he was actually representing two people. And I am absolutely thankful that Robert Rodriguez chose Mahershala Ali. I know a lot of people said this was a waste of a really good actor on that character, but to be honest, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And it's something that I think only manga readers may be able to appreciate. It's not really Vector. I mean, he did a really good job in portraying Vector, I think. But I think he did an amazing job in portraying Nova. And that was great. Yeah, Nova is not an easy character to portray. And the thing I liked about it is, okay, here's a slight spoiler to the people who watch the movie but don't read the manga, but I don't think it's a major one. I'll give a slight character description of what Nova is like. Take Joker and give them a classy persona of Hannibal Lecter and a very random persona of Deadpool. Yeah, if you can figure that out, that will be, yeah, I'll give you a prize for that one. But yeah, the classiness is something that if you talk to Nova, you kind of like, yeah, I kind of like this guy. He's a pretty classy guy. But in the back, he is as batshit crazy as the Joker. That's all I'll say. And I thought Mahershala Ali portrayed that really well, especially during his conversation with Grusuka. He didn't go crazy. He didn't scream and laugh and go, ha ha ha, I'm an evil guy. He stayed calm and just focused on what needed to be done. And that, I thought, was a very good representation of Nova. Nova is a cold, chill person that has an extremely warm persona. And that's why I kind of compare it to Hannibal Lecter. When you talk to Hannibal Lecter, or when you watch, Silence of the Lamb and see the conversations, you're like, wow, this is a classy, kind of a warm-hearted guy. And then all of a sudden, he just goes off and does some of the most nastiest things that scare the crap out of you. And that is similar to Nova. But now add the Joker's craziness to it. And on top of that, yeah, let me do one more persona on that. Tony Stark's brilliance. Or actually, 10 times Tony Stark's brilliance. Yeah. When you put all those four people together, you get something of Nova. And this guy is incredible. Nova is such a great antagonist. And I won't go too much more into it. I'm sorry if I made a little bit of a spoiler with regards to this, but I am absolutely glad that they chose Mahershala Ali for this, because I thought he did Nova really well. I'm not sure if the other manga readers will agree with me, because Nova is such a unique character. I think every reader has their own perspective of him, but I really like the way Mahershala Ali did Nova. Okay, so I'll go over some of the others with some other things with regards to characterization later, but I do want to go to the next thing before I run out of time, which I really liked a lot, and that is the battle scenes. And my gosh, the battle scenes were good. Once again, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, Panzerkunst is a type of martial art that focuses on two ways that are different from present-day martial arts. Martial arts for Panzerkunst is not a self-defense martial art. It is a killing martial art. It is there to kill other people. This is not a superhero, we will defend innocent people. No. Alita's martial art is there to kill other people. And on top of that, it is a three-dimensional martial art because it often takes place in space. And the nice thing I thought about the movie is the practice scene that they showed with Gelda is something that, of course, nobody saw, even the comic readers have not seen, with regards to how that battle is taking place. And I thought the way they showed it floating in the the zero gravity was really good, because of the fact that then you understand why she fights the way she does when she's in the Iron City. If you notice, and a lot of people I think understand now who watch the movie, she fights a lot like Spider-Man. And the reason for that is she can fly and do aerial acrobatics really well. And she can, what's interesting is she could do grappling type moves while moving at extremely fast speeds. And that was noticed both in her fight in the bar, her fight with Grusica, and especially her fight in Motorball, where she was actually able to do some very complex moves while moving hundreds of miles per hour down the track. And now, yeah, let's talk about Motorball. Oh my gosh. Oh, I think I'll go back to the movie just to watch that again, if you don't mind. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the movie and watch it again, and Motorball is going to be the reason. I could talk about, I want to see Alita's characteristic again. No, I am going to go back to watching Motorball. Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, the developers got that game so down right. The important things that they characterized on were the speed, the brutality, and what was interesting was, again, the three-dimensionality. I love the track that they chose for Motorball, because even compared to the manga, which had loop-de-loops and ramps, one thing I loved about this Motorball is it had pipes. Not half pipes, but pipes. And the great things about pipes is, of course, then you could battle in any direction, right? I mean, you could have attackers coming from above you. You could have attackers coming from the sides. They could be spiraling towards you so that you're not exactly sure where to defend from, right? That's the sort of thing that I expected in Motorball, and that's the thing you got. What was interesting is, if there's anything I could compare that battle to, it's, of all things, Mario Kart. It's like Mario Kart on steroids with an extremely demented Wario doing the choreography. I mean, it's really well done. And what I'm hoping for is that if they have a sequel, and if I think the sequel is what I think the sequel is, then there will be some even better Motorball in the future. Because if you remember, as good as the Motorball was, Vector told all those people, you are a bunch of garbage. Basically, they were the lowest of the lows of the professional Motorball community, which should be the case because Alita wiped the floor with them. There better be some outrageously good Motorball players coming out in the future. And if that's the case, I want to see some phenomenal fights. I would love to see pipes where Alita is seeing three opponents coming at her. One from the top, one from the sides, and all are spiraling towards her so that she has to figure out how to defend, where the people are coming from, while at the same time another one is at the back coming, from a ramp and coming down. You could think of many things with regards to Motorball now that you saw this and now that you know what the capabilities of the CGI are. This is phenomenal. This is the sports version of a true dogfight. And I really love that about this battle. And I am going back. And I am going back basically for that one particular scene. Okay, so with that said, I want to go into some critical discussions. Unlike my non-spoiler discussions, I could actually go into some of the details here, and I can nitpick about a few things. I will say I still love the movie, but there are things that did concern me. The first one, which probably is the one that hit me the hardest, was just how fast the character development of Alita moved. It was like, wow, she's going from here to here to here to here in one single day. She comes down, she eats the orange, She learns all about her past. She meets Hugo for all things, and then she goes off and does motorball all in one single day, and even meets a centurion and tries to battle it. Are you kidding me? I mean, I was like, wow, they're accelerating her introduction back into the world so quickly. And the thing is, as much as I like the fact that she was well represented and a soft-hearted, bright person, my gosh, where was the bewilderment? If you remember in the comic, it went several days, and you knew that it went several days, even though it was short. It was short few pages that covered a lot of that. You knew that it went from several days because of the fact that first, she didn't have any limbs in the beginning in the comic, and Daisuke Ito had to carry her around. She also didn't have any hair, and this is actually quite important because of the fact that gives the understanding that when you see the next scene where she has a head full of hair, you understand that there was a time skip between that point. But in the beginning, she doesn't, and because of that, just like in this movie, Daisuke Ito is showing Alita around, but Alita is almost in like this dazed state, going, what's that city up there? What's this guy? Because she doesn't understand. She doesn't know. She's trying to get her bearings. And it takes a while for her to get her bearings. So she's almost like in this dazed state. You know how you are when you first wake up and you're not exactly sure where you are if you're not in your bedroom, and you're like, oh, where am I? What's going on? Yeah, that's the sort of feeling that you got from Alita in the first few images in the story. And again, it was very symbolic that she was wearing a cap with no hair underneath because of the fact that, as much as Alita, Ito can build her hair grows somewhat naturally, and so it takes time for the hair follicle, artificial hair follicles in her body to actually grow her head of hair. But it gave the ability to see that there was this time skip that was going on between one image and another. And because, of course, I didn't mind the fact that, they gave her a full body right from the beginning, because I loved the backstory. I loved Ito's backstory. I really, really loved Ito's backstory, which wasn't in the comic, of course. And that gave a lot stronger bonding that you had between Ito and Shiren, and it gave a very good sadness in his life. Yeah, of course, in the comic, there was his relationship with Carol, which was somewhat an equivalent of what you had in the movie, But I really loved the backstory for that. And so I understand that there was a whole body. But the thing with regards to being able to go one limb to the next was, first of all, it gave Alita the ability to become suspicious, as she did in the movie. But the limbs gave her the ability to become even more suspicious because of the fact that Alita started thinking, where did Ito get these limbs? Considering the fact that he was saying he couldn't afford them. He got some really nice looking, patterned ivory arms, I remember that in the comic. And then eventually she realizes that these are arms of the victims that she sees in the news. And she's like, oh my gosh, where is Ito getting these limbs? Now, of course, Ito's getting these limbs because he's using the connections he has as a hunter-warrior to get the limbs of the victims that were no longer needed anymore, right? That were eventually going to go to scrap anyway. But from Alita's perspective, he's like, how the heck did he, Ito get the limbs from the victims? And that was, of course, not in there, but it was still pretty well done, so I didn't worry too much about it. But anyway, all of that made it very rushed. And it gave this feeling of, wow, Alita's really, considering the fact that she's been asleep for 300 years and she wakes up, has amnesia, and comes out in a world that she doesn't even know where she is. She doesn't know anybody. She's taking it very, very well, And so, that was a little bit of for me, a concern anyway. I don't know if any of you felt that way, but I loved the positivity that the movie showed in Alita, because she was a positive character. But the vulnerability in the very, very beginning, where she was almost like, patient in a hospital sort of feeling, and slowly had to be weaned into the world, was not really portrayed well in the movie. I didn't mind that much because you say, okay, well, this is a much more stronger Alita, but yeah, that was unfortunate from my perspective. And the next one, which is equally concerning, was that of Grusica. I loved how Jackie Earle Haley did Grusica. He was amazing. And my gosh, that battle underneath the bar was really good. And overall, it was extremely faithful to the basic core, how events went through, with the exception of one area, which I figured wouldn't be there. So it didn't kind of upset me as much because I already was kind of prepared for it, was that they didn't include the backstory of Grusica. Yeah, I understand that you can't have him be endorphin junkie the way you can in the comic, because that will destroy the PG-13 rating if you have him running around ripping people's heads off to eat their brains while they're alive, skulls off, I should say, But separate from that, the most important one was the fact that Grusica was an outcast even in Iron City. And that was such an important point with regards to how it set up the world again. Because Grusica, as he mentioned it for a little bit of welcome to my world. You remember when Alita jumped down into the sewers? But he didn't go into the details of why he grew up in the sewers, right? He grew up in the sewers because he was an outcast even in Iron City. And as much as people say, oh, the people of Zalem are so not caring about the people of Iron City. Well, the people of Iron City were not caring of a lot of people who may have had even problems living there. And one of the things with regards to the comic was, of course, the fact that they showed that in detail. He was an outcast, and because of that, he had a terrible life where eventually he basically almost died while being a child in Iron City. And though this wasn't really done in detail or paralleled the story in the manga, where Grusica didn't know who Nova was, I thought that backstory would have been wonderful, because even in the manga, the reason he was able to survive was because of Nova, who saw a forlorn, kind of bullied, almost dying individual who had given up on life, and he thought, what a wonderful opportunity to build a Frankenstein monster that could rain terror on the people of Iron City. Because this guy has so much hate to the people of Iron City who have, oppressed him to this level and almost let him die. And now let me give him the body that he can, have to wreak havoc on Iron City. And that would have been great because of the fact that, of course, as we saw in the movie, Grusica loved Nova. He was absolutely, completely, a subject of Nova. And that would have been perfect because of the fact that if Nova did that for Grusica, then Grusica would, of course, kind of put Nova in the pedestal and worship him. And that would have been a wonderful way of doing it. Now, I understand that why it wasn't in there. There just wasn't the opportunity probably to put it in within the certain timeline. But, a lot of people talked about, well, we didn't have a proper ending. I wish we had an extra 20 minutes to get a proper ending in the movie. The reason I don't think so, and I won't go into the reason why I don't think it needs a proper ending in the next video, because that will put spoilers in there. But I would say if we had extra 20 minutes, part of it I would have loved to have seen the backstory of Grusica. The other thing is, of course, Grusica was nowhere near as menacing as the one in the comic. Yeah, that's hard to imagine, considering just how violent he was in the movie if you only saw the movie and never saw the comic. But the Grusica in the comic was seriously disturbing. Aside from eating brains, the way he got the grind cutters was such a disturbing image. It was interesting because in the movie they did show that kind of his, when they pulled his head up, that he was that kind of this bug-looking entity. And in the comic, he is that bug-looking entity too, but he has one capability that they didn't show in the movie, which is his ability to attach to other cyborgs' bodies and hack into it so that he becomes like a parasite to them, take over the body so that the body stops responding to the host's brain, and then using his wormy body, he would actually rip the host's head off of the body and then attach his own self into the head of the host. And that's how he got the grind cutters in the comic. Yeah, that was a seriously disturbing sight, and that made the battle between him and Elita so much more menacing. It was, I have to admit, the battle in the movie was phenomenal. And the grind cutters were amazing, the way it just destroyed everything. And I thought that made that battle so good. But my gosh, Grusica was such a nasty character in the comic. And I did miss that Grusica in the movie. Coming to the next character, which is Chirin, I'm not sure exactly why people didn't like the Chirin relationship. I guess people didn't say that they didn't like it. They just thought that it was a waste for Jennifer Connelly to play Chirin. And I don't know. I thought that it was actually quite good. I don't want a stupid 2-bit actress playing Chirin. I thought that Chirin did a nice job. And in fact, I thought the Chirin Ito relationship was far, far better in the movie than it was in the anime. I'm not sure about you, but I felt heartfelt for Chirin in this particular situation, and I think a lot of that came from the fact that it was Jennifer Connelly who actually portrayed it, so there was a lot of heart in the character. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I thought that it was a lot better than a lot of people complained about. Now, one complaint I do have with regards to Chirin was, I don't know about anybody else. Well, I'm going to ask the viewers here. When Vector opened that final package and showed the demise of Chirin, were you like, oh, what the heck is that? Because that's my reaction when I saw that. Yes, it's supposed to be that was the same demise that happened in the anime. And why I had that reaction is I was looking forward to that. That's one of those, again, dark irony situations that Battle Angel Alita, the comic, does really well. And it really puts that disturbing dark image into the comic. And disturbing is the really key word. And so I was looking forward to that. I was thinking that there were going to be clinical, medical, very, technical sort of experimental containers of Chirin's organs in that box. And, I was kind of even hoping, maybe not hoping, fearing that Chirin was still going to be somewhat alive in that situation with her, eyes kind of moving around, and, because, Nova, he could do that. But when Vector opened that box, I was like, what the heck is that? It looked like some sort of, it looked like the prop department with a $200 million movie decided that they were going to go and get drunk and then made that, because it looks like something out of a Halloween party. It looks like a bunch of people bought those, those fake brains and things that you could buy at those Halloween stores, during that time of year. And then they put that thing together, put it all into a box and showed. It looked awful. It looked like something out of Spy Kids, and maybe Robert Rodriguez just used so much money that he ran out of funds. And so he had to run back into his Spy Kids props and grab that thing. I don't know. But it was kind of disappointing because I was really like, I want to be shocked. I want that shock value to come out. And when he opened it, I was like, huh? What the heck is that? But maybe that's just me. Well, anyway, that's how I felt about that. Okay, so one last thing. Sorry, it's taking so long, but yeah, the one last thing is Hugo. Yes. I know a lot of people didn't like the Hugo relationship, but I thought it was pretty good. It had a good overall, I think, relationship. And I didn't mind Kean Johnson playing Hugo. I thought he did a pretty darn good job. Yes, the dialogue was campy, but that's not his fault. He wasn't the one who wrote his dialogue. At least I don't think so. And it had it had the faithful ending that we expected. I kind of hoped that the sky image would be a little bit more majestic because that's how it was in the comic. And it was also the way in the anime. I mean, it spanned the sky so beautifully in both the comic and the anime. I was hoping what the live action would be even better, but it felt a little bit kind of constricted there. But anyway, that's me. I think the biggest problem that I had with Hugo was they didn't put in the backstory. And if you thought that I was disappointed with not seeing Grusica's backstory, I was seriously disappointed with not seeing Hugo's backstory. Because Hugo's backstory not only deepened the relationship between Hugo and Lita, but it also gave depth to Hugo's character. And on top of that, it helped build the world of Zalem and Iron City even further in understanding the oppression that was going on. Hugo's backstory, of course, is about his brother having the dream to want to go up to Zalem, right? And he was building that airplane that would eventually, well, it wasn't an airplane, I think it was a balloon. Airship, I'll call it an airship, that would take them there. And of course, eventually, Iron City finds out about it, and it's a crime to fly up to there. So Iron City sends the Hunter Warriors, and they kill his brother. Of course, throughout that entire time, he finds out that Iron City found out about it because his sister-in-law, fearing that eventually the entire family will get decimated, basically gave his brother's situation away. And that devastated Hugo. And one of the things that was important with regards to that was after that really violent death that basically just destroyed his brother's body, one of the only parts that was left was his brother's hand. And it's very important, not just in a symbolic point of view, but the hand, one of the hands that Hugo has is actually his brother's hand, and he wanted it that way so that he could remember his brother. And the person who actually attached it to his arm was Vector. And Vector did it, although he may have had an ulterior motive, and he probably did have an ulterior motive that Hugo would be somebody he could leverage or exploit later on. But in the comic, he did it to somewhat as a friendly gesture as well. He didn't have to really do it and still would have been able to probably get Hugo's help. But he did it as a friendly gesture. And the important thing is that's how Hugo became close to Vector. And how Hugo idolized Vector and decided to do what he wanted. Because aside from that, of course, Vector said that, he didn't say. It was Hugo who asked whether there was a way to get up to Zalem. And Vector, again, this was a very interesting thing because this showed the other side of Vector, a little bit compassionate side of Vector. Vector understood that Hugo wouldn't be able to get up to Zalem. There really wasn't any way to get up to Zalem. And so that's why he put such a large monetary amount into being able to go up there, because he expected that Hugo would never be able to earn that much money to be able to go up to Zalem. Now, of course, on the darker side of Vector then eventually turned around and said, but you can make some money if you work as a spy thief for me. But anyway, Vector, it gave that Vector the conflicting side between light and dark, which came from the backstory. It gave the reason why Hugo was so adamant in wanting to go to Zalem, which didn't come out in the movie. And it also gave the reason why Hugo was so defiant to the conformity to the Iron City, because being conformity is what caused his brother's death. And he was rebellious because of that. And that's why somebody who can be such a good personality as Hugo can still have such a dark side to him that would be happy to take other, destroy other people to take their limbs, is because of that anger and that defiance that came from that situation. And because that backstory wasn't there, it really gave a question of why the heck is Hugo wanting to go up to Zalem that much? Why is he climbing that cable so much? He was climbing that cable because that was the last thing he had left, right? He was a criminal. He lost his body. He lost the ability to be able to live everywhere. And he even lost the dream of being able to go up to Zalem, because it turned out that that was a hoax. And the only thing he had left was Zalem. And that's why he went up. And it was then that, of course, Alita told him, no, the only thing you have isn't Zalem. You also have me, right? And you also have this entire life and the neighbors and everything around you. Cherish what you have. Don't just go focusing on one particular situation, which is, of course, what made Hugo try to turn around when that situation happened, which we also saw in the movie. And that backstory being missing was seriously unfortunate, because that did trivialize that relationship between Alita and Hugo. And that was seriously unfortunate, because until then I thought actually the movie did a better job of the relationship between Hugo and Alita. And then they left that part out, so there was no depth to that relationship anymore. The other thing I really have found upsetting about, well, no, I don't think I'll say it here because this may cause spoilers. I'll talk about it in the next episode, but I will just mention it here, is how Hugo died, right? It's almost to the T the same way he died in the anime and the same way he died in the comic, with the exception of one thing. And I will talk about it in the next episode, of why that decimating ring came down the cable. That's different. The reason of why it came down is different, and that changes the entire situation once again. And I was kind of like, oh, that's too bad. That's just too bad. And it builds a world that's very, very different from the one we saw in the comic. But overall, okay, so those are some of my criticisms. There's a few others which, oh yeah, that's right. Those are some of the criticisms that I could talk about in this video. There are some seriously bad criticism. Well, not bad, but worrisome situations that I want to talk about in the next video. But I can't unless I actually go into stories that go beyond what the movie shows. And so I will do it in my comic/movie spoiler video and the next one. But yeah, overall, I really like the movie. And with all my worries, I hope that there's other movies, that there are sequels, and I hope the sequels remain faithful to the comic, because the comic is great. The comic is fantastic, especially the original series is phenomenal. Now, one worry I can mention here was that I've heard in the grapevine that they're making this into a trilogy, and that scares me a lot, because you really can't cover the entire comic book series or the storyline in 3 movies. Even the original comic series in 3 movies. In which case, either the producers just rip apart that storyline into a very, very short and unfortunately very, very simplified story, or they write it completely different, which I don't want it to be, because if you thought this movie was good, for the people who haven't read the comics, if you thought this movie was good, we haven't even gotten to the best parts of the comic series. I mean, the chapters beyond this point are phenomenal. They're wonderful. I hope they go to that position. What I'm hoping that it is it's not that they're making a trilogy out of it, but considering that it is James Cameron, who has such Hollywood clout, that he was greenlit for the first 3 movies. And if that's the case, I am absolutely excited, because that means that we will at least see 2 more movies, and I really want to see the 3rd movie, assuming the 2nd movie is the Motorball movie. And you know, for the comic readers, what the 3rd movie is. The 3rd movie is when, oh yeah, I can't talk about it here, but that 3rd movie is, that 3rd arc is so good. I can't even mention the name of what that arc is typically called, because that will cause spoilers. But that is such a good story. And it might anger a lot of people, but I don't care. I really want to see that arc in the live action movie. Anyway, but that's about it. That's about all I can say. I'm sorry it went long, but there was a lot to talk about. And I couldn't even say everything that I wanted, but I really appreciate anybody who actually stayed all the way to this point. Anyway, what'd you think about the movie? Hey, that's the typical line that everybody says when they get to an end of a movie review. So, hey, what'd you think about the movie? Please post it in the comment section in the bottom. And, hey, give it a like if you like the movie. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, is what I want to say. And if you have a comment, please post it in the comment section below. For the comic readers, again, since this is only a spoiler to the movie itself, please keep the comments to within the arcs that are inclusive to the actual movie itself. Please don't go beyond, into the, the following arcs beyond this movie. And I thank you in advance for that. Anyway, so I will make at least 1 more video. I think I will make 2 videos actually beyond this point minimum. The next one is the comic/movie spoiler video, where I will go into some concerns I had with this movie, because it creates things that look like they're heading into a completely different direction than the comic. And then I want to talk about my next movie wish list. Yeah. That's what I want to do. But anyway, until then, happy comic book watching, happy movie watching, happy anime watching. And I hope you enjoy Battle Angel Alita as much as I did. And have a nice day, everyone.